Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Suzanne Taylor King here for the Productive and Prosperous Entrepreneur Coffee Chat. And we are here today with Jason Van Orden, business strategist, podcast host, and all around incredible coach. And he has been a member of my circle, been on my awareness now for a long time. And I'm really excited to have this conversation this morning, Jason. Welcome.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Suzanne. So glad to be here. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. It's really amazing. When you came onto my radar, I quickly looked, I did my little snooping on LinkedIn and your website, and I said, "Ooh, we have a lot in common." And I went to your workshop a couple months ago, and you over deliver all the time. You over deliver in your content, you over delivered in that workshop. And I'd love to know, what makes you feel productive in your business?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think there's a real tendency as entrepreneurs to get to the end of the day and wonder if we were productive, wonder if
Oh,
we
yeah.
did focus on the right thing,
Yeah.
wonder if we're headed in the right
Yeah.
direction, and maybe mulling over the couple things on our checklist we didn't get to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm no exception to that. I know that one thing that has helped me a lot to focus on the right things and to be able to recognize that, I have a couple of habits to recommend. Number one is I'm a big fan of time blocking. And so that is planning your week ahead, all the times of, at least at the very least the work hours, when you're going to do what. There's certain blocks I make sure get into my calendar on a weekly basis to ensure that I'm focusing on all the different important areas and nothing's getting neglected. And then each day I usually have 2 or 3 really important things I'm trying to get done, which are blocked into the calendar as well. And I'm not always that good at thinking as far ahead as I should. So that forces me to think ahead, for one. It focuses me on being deliberate about the most important priorities at that moment. And then at the end of the day, I'm able to look back and have a feeling of like, you know what, I really did my best to focus on those things, because if I do have to adjust anything, I'm forced to, in that moment, to think carefully about it. I'm not saying I never change something once it's blocked in, but then I know it's like, okay, I've got this 1 hour right here for business strategy. This other thing has come up. If I is it more important, or can I move that somewhere else? So I have to actually in that moment think about it, as opposed to maybe just getting pulled into the thing, not necessarily thinking about the opportunity cost of shifting. And then sometimes it is like, no, you know what, this is more important. I'm going to make the deliberate decision to move this or shorten it or whatever. And just something about that forced deliberateness and focus helps me at the end of the day to feel more productive. The second habit that goes along with that, which is one I do with my partner, is that at the end of each day, one or the other of us will usually ask the other 3 wins from today. And so the habit there is to really get us to stop and think about, here are things that we accomplished, feel good about, that went well, maybe that came to fruition because of our efforts leading up to that point. And it trains the brain to think more about what has been done and what progress is being made, as opposed to, I think, that very natural tendency to get pulled, like I said, to, did I do enough? Oh no, what about this thing that's still out there?
Yeah.
So those are 2 things that help me quite a bit when it comes to feeling productive in my business.
I love that so much, because that's one of the things I learned from my engineer husband, who has 60 or 70 projects going at one time, which totally, I immediately said, 60 or 70 one-on-one clients. I can't imagine what.
Oh my goodness.
I,
Right?
I couldn't imagine. And one of the things he said was, every time he gets a new project, he knows how long each one is going to take, and he puts those time slots on his calendar. And when I started doing that a couple years ago, and I'll give you the example of, I got a speaking gig in September. And that speaking gig, it's a pretty big deal. And no slides. I never do slides. So okay, what do I need to do? How many hours is it going to take me to prepare for that? And I put two-hour time blocks, one a month before and one 6 weeks before. And it's just going to help me do my bullet points, do my note cards if I need note cards, and actually giving myself the time in the calendar to prep for that rather than leaving it all up in the air. And that's something I love the time blocks.
Mhm.
The thing that's also amazing about what you said was the reflecting on the 3 wins of the day, because our brains are so wired for what didn't I accomplish? Oh, I forgot this, or oh, I didn't do this. And then you walk away from your office or your desk and you feel like you accomplished nothing
Yeah.
because you're wired for that negativity. So I love that. That's a golden, juicy tidbit.
One more thing that actually I would add into that goes along with that, that is
Mhm.
you need to have that weekly time to review your calendar,
Yes.
to look at the next week ahead and look at, what's still left over from the week that maybe didn't get done, and what can you learn from that or whatever, and what needs to be,
Mhm.
slid forward to the next week. And everybody has a slightly different approach that they might take to this, but I think the important habit there is to schedule that at the very least half hour, maybe hour of looking at the plan, making the time block, reviewing, and so
Mhm.
forth. And that needs to be blocked in as well to make sure that it
Yeah.
happens, right? Now, the other thing that I would add to that is I will say that I have struggled at times with time blocking, and one thing that has really helped me, which may help some people listening, I think some people are just fine at just managing it all themselves, but there's a software that I started using several months ago called Reclaim.ai.
Mm.
So it's like as AI is starting to become a big
Uh-huh.
deal, and it's pretty inexpensive, under $10 a month. I think I pay for it, and there's also a free version you get started with. And what it does is it connects to your calendar. It sees where you have things blocked, like calls and stuff that are non-negotiable,
Mhm.
that are marked as I'm busy, and things can't be put in there. And then you also tell it, like, okay, on a weekly or daily or monthly basis, here are habits that need to be put in. Now, a habit might be, I need an hour a day of business development time. I need a 2-hour block in the week for just thinking about strategy for my business. I need, these 3-hour long blocks for content creation, whatever it might look like for you. And it's like, okay, great. So I know what needs to be done there. You kind of give it some parameters for priorities and things like that. And then you also can tell it projects that you have on your plate. Like, okay, like I have a speaking gig coming up, so
Uh-huh.
find me a time here in the next week. And you can kind of tell it ideal times and ideal length and whatever. So it's constantly shifting around. And if, let's say, something comes in and gets booked, or you need to book something at a time over that, then it'll reevaluate and go like, okay, we're going to move that over here for you. So it helps with some of that cognitive load of
Yeah.
managing
Yeah,
the
I
Tetris
can
of
see that.
your
I
calendar.
just read about that a couple weeks ago, and I thought, well, my brain does that for me. Like I'm
Yeah.
already doing that, but by using technology to do it for you, it it does exactly that. It takes some of that cognitive load off of your plate.
Mhm.
Um, do you use electronic calendar, paper calendar, both? What does that look like?
Yeah, I use electronic calendar. I use Apple Calendar, whatever it is, on my
Mhm.
computer, but then that connects with, of course, Calendly. It connects with Reclaim, and I think there might be one other thing. Sometimes when I'm scheduling meetings with lots of different people, and it's kind of those things together are helping
Yeah.
me manage and block things in at the right time. And it's also, speaking, since I brought up of Calendly, like I think it's really important to be very deliberate about whichever of these software you use for booking, right? I think it's
Mhm.
very easy to kind of like open it wide open, and
Oh,
people
yeah.
can,
No, no,
and
no.
then next thing you know, it's chopping up your day and everything. So it's important to be very deliberate about, hey,
Yes.
let's make sure my calls are later in the afternoon, if at all possible, because I need my fresh brain for creative work in the morning. So that's another tip I would say has been really important for me, and it's always an ongoing thing and sometimes
Mhm.
my schedule changes, so I need to adjust it, whatever. But training Calendly, and who knows, they're probably going to integrate AI to start learning this stuff too about your schedule if you want. But
Mhm.
to know like when certain kinds of calls can be booked
I
and
think I
when
think
what's
that's
going on.
might be my number one right now,
Mm,
is when I adjusted my calendar to have Mondays open for admin, creative thinking, deep work time. It's when I meet with my coach, it's when I meet with my accountability partner, and that has changed my life.
mm,
Changed my life because instead of meeting with my accountability partner, having two discovery calls, then having an appointment with my coach, and then at the end of the day I'm fried because it's been too many task switching things.
right.
So on Mondays, I get to work on my business and on me. Tuesday morning, I have discovery calls. Wednesday afternoon, I have discovery calls. And then I did something, went to that group discovery call model. If somebody just wants to meet me,
Yeah.
not necessarily work with me, but they've been introduced to me, they want to get to know me. So that group call, I have 3 of those a month at different time slots. And then I have more time in my schedule to actually have coaching experiences with people, to have check-ins with, clients and over deliver, which I love that. Um,
I was just going to interject. I think that's,
yeah.
because I came to one of those and I thought this is really great. I love how you're doing like these coffee chat hour things. And
Mhm.
my version of that at a little bit more of a scale is my networking calls, which gives me a chance to keep people kind of coming back and
Yeah.
connecting and getting value within my brand and space on a regular basis, and me at least getting to see their face and mine, and those kinds of things. I've also thought about trying what you did there too, but some form of that one-to-many connection.
Yes.
Maybe you've got a discussion group. I've got a client who does like a Q&A on her topic on a regular basis, but it gives her like this place where she can, yeah, be able to invite multiple people in, whether
Yes.
that's just for networking and connecting, whether that's to have them get a taste of your what you do as a coach or whatever. And so in that way, and then of course having those structured in a way to maybe identify when there
Mhm.
is somebody you're like, oh, we should have a
Yes.
one-on-one call, right? Whatever
Yes.
that case may be. So that creates like a buffer between just filling up the calendar with all these half-hour networking calls and all these half-hour
Mhm.
discovery calls that turn into 45-minute discovery calls, and because
Yeah.
that just becomes exhausting as well.
It does. And
Um,
and I would argue that for somebody building their network, growing their network, it becomes that's all you're doing
mhm.
is connecting, meeting, follow up, connecting, meeting, follow up. And that that's not necessarily going to grow your bottom line. It's not necessarily a revenue producing activity. So it's always good to look at and balance that out. Um, Now, you do something with your free workshop that I do as well. I have a monthly call for coaches that's open. I've been doing it for 2 years. And I have a networking group through my Facebook group, through my community.
Mhm.
And I would encourage uh, anyone to really look at how you can bring people together for actual conversations.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me about what that's done for your
Yeah,
business.
yeah, absolutely. So, um, I mean, one of the reasons I started the networking group was kind of just as a challenge to myself, because I knew that I could do better at developing and deepening my own network. But then all these unexpected, amazing benefits started coming
Mhm.
out of it. Fast forward 3 years here, I'm still doing it. And so, for instance, um, I love that when I go to other networking meetings or I bump into people that look like they might be great connections. And sometimes, you're both like, hey, yeah, like maybe meet in a breakout room or connect on LinkedIn. And you're like, yeah, we should stay in touch or whatever. And then it just kind of, floats
Right.
along. And then, yeah. But now what I do is I meet somebody and I go and I connect with them on LinkedIn, and in the next couple of weeks, I'll follow up and be like, hey, I think you might be interested in this networking group that I do. So I
Mhm.
immediately have a value add to put out there, a gift, something that feels
Yeah.
salesy. It's like, look, this isn't going to like put you on my newsletter. There's no sales pitch there or whatever. But then I also have ways, because at the end of the networking group, we do these different breakout rooms by topic. And so I'm always doing a room on some topic at the end. And anybody who comes into that room, I get to note out of the 50 or 60 people that showed up to the call that day, well, here are the 10 that were interested in this, how to gain more clients topic that I was talking about. And I picked those topics deliberately based on things coming up that I'm offering or enrolling in, right? So the other thing that's happened that's been amazing is that people refer others into that networking group all the time. And so, we all want more referrals, right? And often those referrals will happen when somebody bumps into somebody who feels like they're ready for a certain kind of service. And they're like, oh, I know Jason does it. Or I know Suzanne does this. I'll refer over. And those are great. And they're usually warm leads and they convert really well, right? Well, it's really nice to have this way for people to refer others into my brand and space because of this networking call, where it's like, hey, regardless of whether they're ready for my services or even ever are going to be interested in my services, like it's still bringing them in and having their, seeing me as a connector. They're coming into a space where I'm offering value. And so those people become potential partners. I get offered opportunities because of people coming to the networking call. So it's just like an easy thing for others to offer a gift. And I know that there are people who just continually, because they know it's like my friend's going to get great value if they go to Jason's thing.
Right.
They're always referring people over. So that's been, fantastic as well.
Yeah, I think so. Everything you said, yes to, like 100% in agreement with that. What would you say to somebody who was thinking about attending your event? And I say this all the time to people attending my events. Come with that go-giver mindset, and you're going to meet great people. How often do you run your event? Your networking
event? Yeah, the networking event I run once a month, and we have a specific time that we do it, and it's for 90 minutes, and specific format that we run that in. And then you mentioned my workshops, which I also have been doing those in the last several months on a monthly basis as well. And like I said, my goal there is to deliver a lot of value. Now I'm very strategic about it. And in fact, the workshop is something that people that, so I've met people in other networking, bumped into, invite them to my network. They come into my space there. Then I'm connecting more with them there. And then I've got people there that I'll invite over to my workshop. Like, hey, would this interest you? I just say, I'm doing this thing. I thought it might interest you. Here's who it's for, what it is. Would you like to come as my guest? And so then some of them will reply and go, yeah, that would be awesome. And so yet again, it's another invite that's telling me, okay, what are they interested in, for one? So it's an invite that's starting to filter people in or out as a potential fit. Now, not to say that I'm like stalking and getting ready to pounce on them as a client, because my style is always just like these invites that just kind of indicate, who's ready to take each step forward, right? But in those workshops, I'm over delivering, but the kind of information I'm giving. So I have a few objectives I'm going for there. Like I said, filtering in or out, just seeing who's interested in that topic. Second of all, I'm thinking about, again, like, what am I enrolling in terms of one of my programs, either my online course program or my Scaling Your Coaching Business program. So I'll pick a topic that's going to start identifying people who have something top of mind that tells me if they're good for one of those two groups. I'm also thinking about, well, what are some of the common gaps or objections or missing pieces that somebody who does want the outcome that I provide is still here and feeling stuck? What are some of the reasons that they're not moving forward? And in that workshop, can I answer the question, remove the concern, give them some momentum on the idea? I'll go ahead and give an example that's not even for my own business. Let's say you're a coach that works with authors. And you help them through the process of writing and creating their book. Well, you might have people who think, hey, that's great, that's wonderful. As soon as I want to write a book, as soon as I'm ready to take that leap and write a book, I'll go ahead and sign up for your group. But then they're like sitting there waiting. And one of the things that keeps us stuck is, I don't know if I have a good idea for a book. And we know people can sit and just kind of churn their. So it's like, okay, well, what if your workshop help them come up with the title and the topic, or validate their idea, or assess their thing, right? So immediately that starts bridging the gap for them and giving
Yes.
some momentum in that direction. So I feel comfortable over delivering because I'm over delivering in the direction that will help them start overcoming the gap. And then of course I'm giving them a taste of what it would be like. I start treating people like their clients before they've even enrolled as clients. You're coming to that workshop, I'm treating you like a client. We're going to do some work. We're going to get some things done. I want you to leave with decisions, something created, an action plan, whatever the case may be. So all of that then starts moving people eventually towards maybe a one-on-one call with me. But again, you can see how it's like one to many for as long as I can to begin productive with.
Well, it's almost like, when you operate your business like that, you don't have to sell. You don't have to overcome objections because you're doing that every time they see you. And I'm sure that most people, when they get on a one-on-one call with you, they're ready to sign up and work with you 90% of the time.
Right.
And I love that. That's my definition of massive value. And in the sea of all of the information that there is out there in content, you can learn almost anything you need to learn in your business from following the right person, digesting free content, Google searching, like the connection that you have with a coach, and to learn from them to accelerate your journey is so much about the personal relationship that you have with that person, to me. And I notice when people have a personal relationship with me, whether I've provided value, and I notice this with your people too, they're loyal to the fact that they comment on your content, they show up at your events, and even if they haven't purchased from Jason, they're still referring people to Jason. That's what it's all about to me in this online space of noise.
Yeah, absolutely. And the overall of this is what I call the gravity method. And it's for two reasons. Number one, I'm a space geek. And so it gives me great space analogies. But number two, this is about keeping people in your orbit until they are ready to move forward to the next step. And so by having these networking, by having these workshops, these touch points on a regular basis that help me, put out value, kind of see who might be ready for the next step, but keep them in my orbit. Because the truth is, like, as we're doing lead generation or just, building our list, building our network, building our audience, there's only going to be this small percentage of people that in the near term will be ready to work with us. And so if we're so focused on like, okay, well, who's ready for a discovery call? No. Okay. Then, and moving on to the next leads, there's all these, it's kind of like an iceberg analogy, right? There's all these other people that in 2 months, 6 months, a year or more would be ready. And so you need to keep them in your orbit until that time comes, right? And so in the aggregate over time, you're being more productive with your lead gen, because as they come into your world and come into your orbit, you keep them there with this value and these touch points that keep going. And so you're keeping more referral partners around, you're keeping more potential clients around, and regularly feeding, to use the marketing sales term, the back end of your funnel with the people who are ready to talk to you about working with you. Yeah.
And I didn't know why you called it the gravity method till you just explained it, but it makes so much sense. And I think when I first started as a coach 15 years ago, I didn't understand. I always thought it was about more leads, because you hear that all the time, right? Oh, you just need more leads. You need somebody to do lead gen for you. And it's totally not true. So for anyone listening out there right now who thinks you need more people, you don't. You don't need a constant stream of hundreds and hundreds of new people every month. You need to do a better job at keeping the ones you have. And I always reference Jerry Seinfeld episode. Right now, this is the perfect time to say, get better at holding the reservations, not just taking them. Do you remember that episode when he
Yes.
reserved a car and the car wasn't there? And
Yeah. And he gets so upset and
so and I feel like the online space is totally that. There's so many people and so much abundance in this world. Just get better at holding on to people, whether it's through good content, huge value, a networking group, valuable workshops, and stay in touch with those referral partners and have them talking about you in rooms you're not in. And when you master that, you don't need any lead generation.
yeah. And when, if people should note that if we're thinking about customer journey here, there's an
Mhm.
overarching theme of how to shift things. So if we think about customer journey, you gain attention. I put it into 3 phases: gain attention, earn their trust, and maintain that relationship over time until they're ready for you to inspire them to buy. Now, you'll note that what we've been talking about in terms of the networking calls and the calls that you do, your coffee chats, my workshops, this is that kind of front end of funnel going into middle of the customer journey
Right.
stuff, and it's all as much as possible one to many, right?
Yes.
So going back to the productivity theme here of the call, and a lot of times people are doing everything one to one straight into that
Yes.
customer journey. So it's like, go to the networking meeting. Okay, I guess I book a one-on-one call with everybody I was just in that breakout room and see if they might want to be a client. And so
Yeah.
you're filling up your schedule. You've got all
Mhm.
these one-to-one paths that are being traced in, and you're getting maxed out before you even have a chance to really. So if you can make that front end of funnel stuff more one to many and how you guide people in, and your newsletter should be part of that.
Yes.
Of course, like a podcast or a live stream or Facebook group. Like, these are all those things at the beginning of gain attention and bringing them in one to many.
Right.
The other and then the other theme here is that don't filter people in and out before it does get to that one-on-one place. Prepare them and warm them up before it does get to that one-on-one place, so that, like you said, once that call happens, it's high, 80-90% they're gonna say yes, because you've filtered in the right people, you've warmed them up and prepared them for what you're about, what you offer, why your solution is the best one for them.
Mhm.
And so if you approach your customer journey that way, it's going to make you more efficient. The last thing I'd say about that is a lot of people are missing the middle of their customer journey.
Yeah.
When a lot of coaches and consultants come and talk to me, like, I'm having a hard time growing my business because I'm pulled between sales and then marketing and serving clients, and I never seem to have a time for all three. Part of it is because they're doing this one-on-one path, but that's all they have is this like black box of networking, LinkedIn, okay, I'm just trying to get whoever I can right over here to the one-on-one call. And there's nothing in the middle to filter people in and out, keep them around, figure out who is ready. And so
Yeah.
that's something to start looking at. So build the middle of your funnel, make the front and the middle as much one to many as possible. And that's going to help a lot with growing your business and not feeling overwhelmed and overloaded while you do it.
Yeah. I really love how you describe it. It's so tangible the way you describe it. And it's like you're in my head. Because I've seen this for years as a major problem, not just in the coaching world. I've worked with some coaches, but I'm not exclusively working with coaches. But I see this problem with coaches, with consultants, with financial advisors, insurance people. Like, I see it across so many niches, and it just speaks to me. So thank you so much for describing it, articulating it so well. One of the things that I learned from the Prosperous coach approach was that middle of the funnel journey. And actually, I've begun to take one step further, that when someone's interested in working with me, my filtration process, when somebody says, "What does it look like to work with you?" I ask, "Have you ever had a coach before that you
Mm.
worked with one-on-one. And if they say no, I suggest, how about we have a coaching experience call? I offer you a complimentary session and you get to actually experience what I do. And it's my measure to see if they're actually going to do the work before that session that I send over. And then how do they receive the session? And what do they say at the end of the session? And
Yeah.
I only do a couple of those a week, but it's an incredible middle of, like you said, middle of the funnel journey to over qualify people to see if they're ready to work with you.
And I like how you have a question that you're asking them that's helping you decide what that next step, the appropriate step would be for them.
Yeah.
And that is a key piece of this process is, having the invites that indicate, if they might, if it's top of mind and interested, but then also, as you start inviting them forward, knowing what those filter questions are, like before somebody gets on this one-on-one call, maybe, it's like, well, really for me to do my best work with people and for them to be an ideal client, they need to have an email list of 1,000 people or more, and they need to have already been, coaching for a couple of years, or, whatever that might be for you. So if you have those couple of things that you can ask at the right moments, it helps, it's like, okay, are you ready for this next step? Or is it this step over here? Or maybe I should have you check out one of my resources, and that'll help you until then you're, ready to move forward for one of my programs or whatever the case may be. So, and this of course all ties back to knowing who your ideal client is.
Yes. And knowing them so deeply
Really well.
that I'm always going deeper on that personally. I would also say, and I'm curious if you do this as well, those qualifying questions, I put them on my calendar. And that gives me a good insight when somebody is scheduling that one-on-one with me, where they're at now income wise, where do they want to go income wise, and what success looks like for them. And I had somebody answer really interesting. They answered totally off the wall, not business related, but outrageous success for them looked like working less and losing weight while they were growing their business. And I was like, that's interesting. And I've had a couple people answer like that. And isn't that interesting that I used to be a health coach and I incorporate a lot of those things, right? So, they're attracted to me because I do talk about well-being and sitting too much as an entrepreneur. So it's great to go deeper on your person, and you can do that by asking those qualifying questions either on your calendar or before your events or when somebody registers for a workshop. So I think that's imperative to grow as a coach or a consultant or of any business, really. You got to know your ideal client very, very, very well. And I know mine works entirely too much.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Jason, how can our listeners get in touch with you and get into your world with a little bit of Jason Gravity?
Yeah, I love it. So
sounds like a musical artist, right? Like
right.
Jason
Absolutely.
Gravity. Yeah.
So if you're interested in attending some of those workshops, sometimes they'll do workshops and enrolling more clients. Sometimes it'll be on making your offers, stronger, different things like that. My newsletter is the place to be. So if you want to sign up for that, if you go to jasonvo.download, that's the web address, that'll take you to a page where you can sign up. But you'll also immediately get access to my course hub, where I've got some free courses ready for you. One of which, for instance, is the gravity method, and it'll give you some information about how that works and how you might be able to get started with it as well. So that would be a great place to go and
I love it.
And enjoy some Jason Gravity.
Yes. And if you have any questions for Jason and you are watching us in the Idea Lab community, or on LinkedIn or on YouTube. Just put your question in the comments and I will make sure that Jason comes back and answers them for you. And we will put all the links to all of his juicy goodness in the comments. And thank you again, Jason, for joining us on the Productive and Prosperous Entrepreneur Coffee Chat, and hope to see some value from you in the Idea Lab community. I would love for you to share your workshops, any events you have going on. So I'll make sure you get a little bit of Suzanne gravity.
Nice. I love it. Yeah. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.